The lights went out with a click. The therapy room in the big Los Angeles mansion fell into deep, soft dark. No glow. No screen. No beeping blue numbers. Only quiet. Aaliyah Reed, 9 years old, stood very still. She could hear her own breathing. She could hear the boy's breathing too, slow, careful, like he was afraid of the air. "Malik," she whispered, "if you can see me, touch my hand." The billionaire's son, the boy everybody said was born blind, turned his head. His eyes, those honey brown eyes that never looked at anyone, moved. Not by mistake. Not from a blink. They moved on purpose. Toward Aaliyah's voice. Toward Aaliyah's hand. His fingers lifted. They shook. Then they reached across the space between them. They found her. Aaliyah's heart jumped. She felt his small warm fingers touch hers in the dark. He held on. And then footsteps. Fast. Angry. The hallway lights flashed under the door like a warning. Someone tried the handle. A sharp voice shouted, "Who turned off the lights? Open this door now." Aaliyah squeezed Malik's hand. "Please," she whispered to him in the dark, "don't be scared." A key scraped in the lock. "Drop a comment of where you're watching from, because what happens next will make your heart race." Hours earlier, the day started like it always did in the Brooks mansion on the hill. The house was bigger than a school. The glass walls looked over Los Angeles like a giant eye. Cars below were tiny. The sky felt close. Inside the rooms were bright. Too bright. White floors. White walls. White light that hummed in the ceiling like bees. Screens in every corner. Machines that beeped and blinked. Everything shiny. Everything clean. Everything clever. But the house was also quiet. A sad kind of quiet. The kind that made people whisper even when they didn't need to. In the East Wing, past the art, past the plants that never had dirt on them, there was a special room. The therapy room. This room had the most light of all. It looked like a hospital and a spaceship had a baby. Everyone said this room would help Malik. Malik Brooks was 3. He had dark curls and soft cheeks. He wore little socks with tiny stars on them. He was the only child of Damon Brooks, the famous black billionaire from Los Angeles who built apps, towers, and dreams. Damon could call the mayor and the mayor would pick up. Damon could buy a building with one phone call. But Damon could not buy the one thing he wanted most. He could not buy his son's eyes. Doctors said Malik was born blind. They said his eyes were fine but his brain did not see what eyes see. They used long heavy words. They showed charts. They sent bills. Damon paid every bill. He flew in 17 specialists. He flew in more. He filled the room with hope until hope ran away. Still Malik did not look at anyone. He did not say Dad. He did not point to toys. He did not reach. He only listened and breathed and lived inside a quiet place nobody else could find. There was one more rule in the Brooks house. No children near Malik. The staff knew it. The guards knew it. Even the cook knew it. Kids were unpredictable, they said. Kids were a risk. But rules are funny things. Rules can be big and tall like walls. Yet sometimes a small person can walk right through a crack nobody else can see. That small person was Aaliyah Reed. Aaliyah lived in South LA with her mom, Tasha. Their apartment was over a laundromat that smelled like soap and hot cotton. The bus stop was their clock. Aaliyah liked to draw on old pizza boxes and collect bottle caps that looked like coins. She liked shadows. She liked quiet too. Not sad quiet. Resting quiet. The kind that feels like a blanket. Tasha cleaned houses to pay rent. One of the houses was the Brooks mansion. Today Miss Keisha, the neighbor who watched Aaliyah after school, was sick. Tasha couldn't leave her girl alone. She had to bring Aaliyah to work and pray nobody got mad. "Baby," Tasha said on the bus, holding Aaliyah's hand, "you got to be on your best behavior. No touching. No wandering. No talking to folks unless they talk to you. You understand?" "Yes, ma'am," Aaliyah said. She meant it. She always meant it when her mom's eyes were tired like that. They went through the tall gates. A guard checked their names. The driveway curved like a river. The house shined like a star. Inside, Miss Johnson, the head nurse, met them. She was tall and kind, with a voice like a soft drum. "Tasha," she said, "you can do the living room and the gallery today. And your little one," Miss Johnson looked down at Aaliyah. "You stay close to your mama, okay? We have a special patient. No children in the East Wing." "Yes, ma'am," Aaliyah said again. She tried to do what her mom said. She sat on a bench near the big window and swung her feet slow. She counted cars far below. She watched a hawk slide over the city, quiet and smooth. She listened to the house hum. But in the house the lights hummed too. The more she sat there, the louder the humming felt inside her head, like it pressed on her ears. She looked down the hall toward the east wing. The light there looked even whiter than white. A cart rolled by. On the cart were headphones, bright toys, little flash cards with black and white lines, and a box of sensors. Aaliyah had seen those in a video once. For babies who didn't look at faces. The cart turned into a wide door. The door was open just a little. Aaliyah saw a small shoe under a chair. A sock with tiny stars. She stood up before she knew she was standing. "Ally," her mom whispered, catching her eye as she dusted a shelf. "Stay with me." "I will," Aaliyah mouthed. And she meant it. But her feet made a different choice. They carried her, quiet as a cat, down the hall. They carried her to the wide door. She peeked in. She saw Malik. He sat in a soft chair like a nest. He held nothing. He looked at nothing. His face was calm and far away. A woman in a white coat stood near him, making notes on a tablet. Miss Johnson adjusted a light. "Let's try the bright setting," the doctor said. "Maybe the contrast will cue him." The light over Malik's head got brighter, harsh and sharp. Aaliyah flinched. It felt like the sun in her face at noon. Malik's shoulders tensed. His jaw tightened. His fingers curled in and then let go like they wanted to run but couldn't. Miss Johnson saw it too. "He's getting tense." "Proceed," the doctor said. "Track the stimulus." She held up a glowing wand and moved it slowly left and right. Malik did not follow it. He went still like a statue. Aaliyah felt a tight feeling in her chest. She looked up at the ceiling lights again. They buzzed. She didn't speak. She didn't think. She just knew something simple and small. This room is too bright. And then she saw something else. A tiny thing. A flash most people would miss. When the doctor turned away to tap her tablet, her shoulder blocked the light for a heartbeat. For that tiny heartbeat, shade fell across Malik's face. Malik's eyelids trembled. When the light returned full, his eyelids went still again like they were hiding. Aaliyah's breath caught. She watched for it again. Another passing shadow, this time from Ms. Johnson's hand. Another small tremble from Malik's eyes. Like he wanted to look when the light was soft. Like he wanted to try in the shade. Aaliyah's fingers curled at her sides. She whispered to herself, "He doesn't like the light." "Excuse me?" Miss Johnson looked toward the door. Aaliyah flew backward like a leaf in wind. She pressed herself to the wall, heart thumping. Miss Johnson didn't come out. She turned back to the boy. Aaliyah stood there and counted to 30. Then she counted to 30 again. Her mom was down the hall, dusting in a room full of big paintings. If Aaliyah ran back, she could pretend she had never moved. But a thought sat in her like a stone. If nobody tries the dark, nobody will see what I saw. And another thought, if I get in trouble, my mom might lose her job. Every part of her body wanted to do the safe thing. But her feet remembered the way Malik's eyes trembled when the shade touched them. Her feet made the brave choice. She slipped down the hall to a small side door she had noticed while peeking in. It was Mark's supply. Inside was a tiny room with shelves and a simple switch on the wall. Aaliyah looked up. The switch had two labels, all/zones. She didn't know what zones meant, but she knew what all meant. Her finger hovered. She swallowed. "I'm sorry, Mama," she whispered. "Please don't be mad." She flipped the switch down. The lights in the east wing clicked off. All of them. Shouts. Fast steps. The doctor gasped. Miss Johnson said, "Power issue? We're on backup." The machines beeped steady, the sockets still worked. Only the ceiling lights had gone dark. The big windows threw a gentle gray across the floor. The room turned soft. Not scary. Just calm. Aaliyah slid back to the therapy doorway and pressed her palm to the frame. She could see Malik's outline now, not washed out, not buried under white. He looked real. Like a kid at nap time. "Hold position," the doctor said, but her voice wobbled. Miss Johnson went to the wall to feel for the switch in the dark. She found a lamp and pulled its chain. The little lamp woke with a warm yellow glow in one corner. Pacing, low, quiet breath before the next rise. In that gentle lamplight, Malik moved. Not a twitch. Not a flinch. A movement with a start and a finish. First his shoulders softened, like a string had been cut. Then his head turned toward the warm glow. His lids floated up a little, not all the way. His mouth opened just enough for breath. Miss Johnson froze. She turned her face toward the boy, tears already fogging her glasses. "Baby?" she whispered, not like a nurse now but like an auntie. "Record this," the doctor said, voice tight. "Record all of this." Aaliyah forgot her fear. She stepped into the room. She didn't get too close. She kept a soft space between them, the way you do with a stray cat. She crouched until her eyes were level with Malik's. "Hey," she said, voice small and kind, "it's okay." The doctor spun. "Who is that? Get her out." But Miss Johnson lifted a hand without looking away from Malik. "Wait." Aaliyah pointed to the lamp. "He likes that light," she said. "Not the big lights. They hurt." "How would you know that?" the doctor snapped. "'Cause I felt it too," Aaliyah said simply. "Those lights buzz. They sting." Silence. Whole silence. It felt like the room itself was listening. Aaliyah kept her voice soft. "Malik," she said, "if this light feels good, can you look at my hand?" She slowly raised her hand into the warm glow so it cast a shadow across Malik's lap. Malik's eyes followed the shadow. Just a little. But they followed. Miss Johnson covered her mouth. The doctor's tablet hit her leg with a dull bump where she let it hang. "Again?" the doctor whispered. "Please. Again." Aaliyah moved her hand left. The shadow slid like a slow fish across Malik's knees. Malik's gaze tracked it, late, wobbly but real. He tracked. The hallway door burst open. 2 security guards stepped in, hands on radios. Behind them came a man in a dark suit with a face everyone in the city knew from billboards and news. Damon Brooks. He didn't look like the pictures. He looked tired. He looked scared. His tie was wrong. His eyes were sharp and wet at the same time. "What happened to the power?" he asked. "Is my son okay?" Then he saw Malik's face in the warm lamplight. He saw the way the boy's eyes were not empty, not lost, but busy, following a small girl's moving shadow. Damon forgot to breathe. "Malik?" he said, voice breaking like glass. "Buddy?" Malik's head tilted toward the sound of his father's voice. But his eyes, stayed with the shadow, like they had finally found something they could hold. The doctor tried to take control. "We're observing a response to dim luminance and low-frequency visual cue." "No," Aaliyah said, too fast for fear now. "He doesn't like bright. He likes soft. Turn off the other lamp, please. Just keep this one." "Who are you to give orders in my lab?" the doctor snapped. Damon didn't look away from his son. "Who is this child?" Miss Johnson found her voice. "This is Tasha's girl, sir. The housekeeper. She turned the lights off." The guards shifted. One stepped forward. "Sir, we can remove." "Don't you touch her," Miss Johnson said, surprising everyone, even herself. Damon lifted a hand, still watching his son. "Nobody moves," he said, low and firm. "If my boy is looking, we don't scare it away." Aaliyah breathed out. She slowly slid her hand closer to Malik until her fingers and the shadow made a small game on his lap. Left, right, stop. She kept it slow. She kept it kind. "Hi Malik," she said. "My name is Aaliyah. Can I sit on the floor? I'll be a statue." She sat cross-legged on the clean white floor and folded her hands in the lamp glow. She didn't touch him. She let her hand make a little hill and a little valley with the light. She watched Malik watching. For the first time in his whole life, Malik looked like a boy learning a game. They stayed like that for long heartbeats. Aaliyah moved. Malik followed. Aaliyah stopped. Malik searched. When he found the shadow, his lips curled up just a little. A tiny smile. A baby sunrise. Something inside Damon Brooks broke and healed at the same time. He took a shaky step forward, then stopped himself like the floor was thin ice. "Miss Johnson," he whispered, "are you seeing this?" "I'm seeing it," she said, tears on her cheeks. "I'm seeing it, sir." The doctor pulled her voice together. "This could be a case of severe photophobia or cortical processing that only tolerates low-lux environments," she said, fast and worried. "We need to control variables. We need data." "We will do all that," Damon said, still not blinking. "But right now we are going to listen to the only person in this room who made my son look." He finally looked at Aaliyah. His voice was soft. "What do you need?" Aaliyah swallowed. She didn't know much about rich people words. She didn't know anything about Lux. She only knew what the room felt like in her skin. Less light, she said. Warm light. No buzzing. And no yelling. Damon nodded once. Done. He turned to the guards. Have the electrician on the line in 2 minutes. I want every bulb in this wing changed today. Warmer Kelvin. No flicker. No hum. Dimmer switches in every room. Now. The guards ran. He turned to Ms. Johnson. Anything bright gets covered. Today. Ms. Johnson was already moving. The doctor opened her mouth, closed it, then tapped notes with shaky fingers. Aaliyah looked back at Malik. He was still watching the little shadow hill and valley. She felt brave now. Brave and careful. Malik, she whispered, I'm going to move my hand closer to your hand. If you want to touch it, you can. If you don't, that's okay. She moved slow. A tiny inch. Another. His eyes stayed with the shadow and then, like a bird landing, his hand lifted. He reached toward her fingers. Right before their hands met, the hallway emergency system kicked the overheads on for safety. The ceiling lights flashed back to full white. Malik flinched hard. His eyes slammed shut. His shoulders jumped. A small sound, half gasp, half cry, scraped out of him. No! Ms. Johnson yelled. Turn them off. The doctor ran to the wall panel, fingers flying. Damon rushed forward, hands up, voice calm but strong. It's okay, buddy. It's okay. We're fixing it. Aaliyah's heart hammered. She didn't move. She waited, hands open, body small. She whispered, It'll be soft again in a second, Malik. I promise. The doctor killed the overheads. The room dropped back into warm lamplight. The air let go of its grip. Malik shook like a leaf for 3 breaths. Then he went still. Then he did the thing that made time stop for everyone in the room. He opened his eyes, slow and careful, looked at the shadow and reached again. His fingers touched Aaliyah's fingers. He held on. Damon made a sound like a laugh, trying not to be a sob. Ms. Johnson wiped her face with her sleeve. The doctor whispered, This changes everything. Aaliyah smiled, small and brave. Hi, Malik, she said again. Do you want to play the shadow game some more? Malik didn't speak, but his hand squeezed hers. What? Like yes. The hallway door banged open again. More footsteps. A deep voice shouted from the hall, Power crew. We're about to reset the grid. Wait. Damon barked. Don't. The surge hit like thunder. Every bulb in the mansion blinked white, then yellow, then white again. A storm made of electricity. The walls buzzed like angry bees. The lamp beside Malik's chair flared so bright it burned his skin in color he couldn't name. Kill the power. Damon shouted. But his voice came too late. Malik's small body stiffened. His fingers jerked away from Aaliyah's hand. His mouth opened in a silent scream. Malik. Aaliyah gasped. She reached out, but the boy's head snapped back, his arms trembling. The machines behind him beeped wild red numbers. The doctor cursed, running to the control board. Then just as fast as it came, the light died. Darkness fell. Not soft darkness, deep, heavy, swallowing darkness. The backup lights failed too. Even the hum of the air vents cut out. For the first time, the mansion was quiet enough to hear hearts beating. Emergency batteries out, Ms. Johnson whispered. Damon's voice was barely there. My son, is he breathing? Aaliyah didn't wait. She knelt beside Malik, shaking, listening close. He's breathing, she whispered. He's just scared. Stay back, child, the doctor warned, fumbling for a flashlight. But Aaliyah ignored her. She leaned close to Malik's ear and said the first thing that came to her mind, the same words her mama used when thunder shook their apartment. It's okay, baby. The light can't hurt you now. You're safe in the dark. The words were soft, like a lullaby without a tune. Malik's shaking slowed. His breathing evened. Then, something nobody expected. A tiny sound like the start of a word. Not a cry. Not a hum. A sound with purpose. Ah. Damon froze. Did he just say something? Ms. Johnson's hand flew to her mouth. Yes. Oh Lord, yes. The doctor turned sharply, her flashlight trembling. Impossible. His vocal patterns. But Aaliyah wasn't listening. She smiled through tears. Hi, Malik. You're talking, huh? Ah, Malik whispered again, voice shaky but real. The backup generator coughed, then roared back to life. Dim orange lights flickered across the room. Damon sank to his knees beside his son, speechless. Aaliyah looked up at him. He wasn't scared of the dark, Mr. Brooks. He was scared of the light. Damon stared at her like she had spoken magic. But before anyone could breathe, the doctor stepped forward. Her voice was sharp again. This child has interfered with a controlled environment. We have no proof this reaction wasn't stress-related. I need the girl and her mother removed now. No, Damon said quietly. She stays. Sir, that's completely. I said, he repeated, she stays. The doctor's lips pressed into a thin line, but she didn't argue. Damon turned back to Aaliyah. What did you say to him? I just told him the truth, she said. That he's safe. 30 minutes later, the house buzzed with quiet confusion. Electricians moved through the halls, whispering about the grid failure. Ms. Johnson cleaned up spilled supplies. The doctor filled out a report, her pen scratching fast like anger itself. Aaliyah sat on the floor near Malik, rolling a small rubber ball back and forth in the warm lamplight. Malik's fingers brushed it when it came near, then pulled back, curious, careful. Damon stood behind them, arms crossed, eyes red. He couldn't stop watching. He's never reached for anything, Ms. Johnson whispered. Not once. Not like that. He's reaching now, Damon said softly. Because she's here. The doctor cleared her throat. Mr. Brooks, emotional coincidences happen. It doesn't prove she's done anything medical. It proves, he said, that she's done something human. The doctor went silent. Aaliyah didn't hear any of that. She was watching Malik's fingers. You can take it, Malik, she said. It won't bite. Malik hesitated, then slowly placed his small hand on the ball. It rolled forward. He reached again. Aaliyah clapped quietly. See? You did it. Malik smiled. A real smile. Ms. Johnson started crying. Damon looked like he'd forgotten how to breathe. Even the doctor lowered her pen. But then the front doors of the mansion slammed open. Footsteps. Heavy. Angry. Where's my wife? Everyone froze. Damon's face went white. Renee, he whispered. A tall woman stormed into the therapy room, black heels clicking like gunfire. Her hair was tied tight, her gold jewelry flashing under the dim lights. She was beautiful and furious all at once. What's going on here, Damon? She demanded. Why are there strangers in my son's room? Renee, he started, please lower your voice. Lower my voice? She snapped. You let some janitor's child play nurse with Malik? She turned to Aaliyah, her eyes sharp. Get away from him. Aaliyah froze. Malik's smile vanished. His body went tense again. Damon stepped between them. Renee, stop. She helped him. He looked Renee. He reached. He spoke. Renee laughed, but it wasn't happy. You think I care about imaginary miracles? Damon, he's blind. He's been blind since birth. You're letting hope make you crazy again. Hope, Damon said quietly, is all I have left. Renee pointed at Aaliyah. Get her out of this house. Now. Aaliyah stood, shaking. She looked at Malik, whose fingers had started to tremble again. Ms. Johnson stepped forward. Mrs. Brooks, with respect, that child just did what no one else could. Enough. Renee snapped. Security. But Malik suddenly screamed. Everyone stopped. It wasn't loud, just raw. A sharp, broken sound that ripped through the quiet like lightning through glass. He clutched his head and shouted again. Ah! Malik! Damon shouted. Turn off the light. Renee, move. The overhead light above them was flickering, blinking like a heartbeat too fast. Get the bulb out. Ms. Johnson yelled, jumping for the switch. Aaliyah didn't think, she just moved. She ran to Malik's side and wrapped her arms around him. It's okay. Don't look. Just close your eyes. The light popped. Glass fell like rain. Then darkness again. Malik stopped screaming. His breathing slowed. He clung to Aaliyah's shirt and buried his face in her shoulder. The whole room stood still. Nobody dared to move. Renee's voice broke first. What just happened? Aaliyah looked up, tears in her eyes. He's not blind, she whispered. He's scared of light. Everyone stared at her. Damon's jaw fell open. Ms. Johnson covered her mouth. Even the doctor's hand shook. What did you just say? Damon whispered. Aaliyah swallowed hard. The light hurts him. That's why he never opens his eyes. It's not that he can't see, it's that he doesn't want to. Renee's knees gave out. She caught herself on a chair. That's impossible. The doctors. The doctors might have been wrong, Miss Johnson whispered. Dear God. Damon looked at Aaliyah, this little girl in a torn t-shirt, her braids messy, her heart steady, and said, if you're right, then all these years, all this pain. He couldn't finish. A loud bang echoed through the house, the front door again. A man's voice shouted from the hall. Power company. We need access to the main fuse room immediately. There's been a report of a fire under the east wing. Aaliyah gasped. The lights flickered red, fire alarm red. Smoke began to crawl under the door. Damon grabbed Malik from her arms. Miss Johnson ran to the window. The alarm wailed, shrill and cruel. Renee screamed, the east wing is burning. Aaliyah's eyes widened. That's where the supply room is, she whispered. Where I flipped the switch. Everyone turned toward her. The heat hit the door. It glowed faint orange. Damon shouted, we have to get out, now? The doctor grabbed her laptop. Renee grabbed her bag. Miss Johnson grabbed the oxygen tank. But before they could run, Malik whispered something, his first full word. Everyone froze. He pointed weakly toward the door and said clear as day. Light. The fire came alive like it had been waiting. Flames raced across the white walls, turning them gold and black all at once. Thick smoke curled from the door cracks. The air turned hot enough to sting. Everybody out. Damon shouted. He grabbed Malik tight to his chest. The boy hid his face against his father's shirt, trembling. Aaliyah coughed, eyes watering. Mr. Brooks, the fire's spreading too fast. I know. Damon yelled back. Miss Johnson, help Renee. Miss Johnson ran to the door, but the handle glowed red. She jumped back. It's burning through the frame. The doctor, shaking, pressed a button on the wall. Nothing. The sprinkler system isn't responding. It runs on the same power grid. Renee cried. It's all shut down. Smoke thickened, rolling like a dark cloud. Malik started coughing. Damon pulled off his jacket and covered the boy's face. Hold on, son. I've got you. Aaliyah's mind raced. Her mama had taught her about smoke. Crawl low, stay under the dark air. She dropped to her knees. Down here, she shouted. The air's better. Everyone followed her lead, crawling across the shiny floor. The lamp fell and shattered, sending sparks across the tiles. The fire alarms wailed louder. The smell of melting wires filled the room. Where's the exit? Renee screamed. We can't see anything. There's a side door. Miss Johnson coughed. By the window, if we can reach it. They crawled together through the thick smoke. Aaliyah's eyes burned. Every breath felt like fire. Suddenly, Malik started struggling in Damon's arms. He was trying to twist free. No, son. Stay still. Damon begged. But Malik kept pointing, his hand shaking, toward the corner of the room. The same corner where the little supply closet was. Light? He whispered again. Everyone stopped. The room went silent. And then, the hallway exploded in flame. Did he just say light again? Renee gasped. Aaliyah turned her head. Through the smoke, she saw a faint glow seeping under the door of the closet. Not orange firelight, white. Cold electric white. That's not the fire, she said quietly. That's something else. What are you talking about? The doctor snapped. We need to get out, not investigate. But Aaliyah didn't move. Her heart pounded hard in her chest. Something in Malik's face, something calm, almost certain, made her believe him. He's pointing there for a reason, she said. He's not scared this time. Aaliyah, no. Damon shouted. But the girl crawled through the smoke anyway. The air burned her throat, but she kept going. She wrapped her sleeve around her hand, grabbed the closet handle and pulled. The door opened with a loud creak. Inside was a small metal box glowing bright white. It wasn't burning, it was buzzing. Wires ran into it and light poured out from the cracks. It was the main fuse control, the one Aaliyah had touched earlier when she turned off the lights. But now it looked different. Something's wrong, she whispered. Sparks jumped from the box. The glow pulsed faster and faster like a heartbeat. Step back, the doctor yelled. That's live current. Aaliyah stumbled back. I didn't mean to. It's not your fault, Damon said quickly, dragging her away from the light. We just have to move, now. The box hissed. A sharp pop echoed. Then the light inside the box turned blue. Blue? Ms. Johnson whispered. What kind of fire burns blue? Before anyone could answer, Malik lifted his head. His face changed. His eyelids flickered open just a little. He looked straight at the box. Malik, no, don't. Damon pleaded. But the boy didn't look scared. For the first time he wasn't shaking. His eyes that were supposed to see nothing, were locked on the blue light. He reached a hand out toward it. Malik. Aaliyah shouted. Stop. The room shook. The fuse box exploded in a flash of white and blue. The sound was so loud it felt like thunder hit the floor. Everything went black. No fire sound. No alarms. Just darkness again. Aaliyah opened her eyes slowly. Her ears rang. She felt cold tile under her palms. Smoke still hung in the air, but it wasn't moving anymore. Mr. Brooks, she whispered. No answer. She pushed herself up. The light was gone. Her whole body shook. Miss Johnson? Renee? Still nothing. Then a small sound, tap, tap, tap. Aaliyah turned toward it. In the dim gray smoke, she saw Malik sitting upright on the floor. Damon lay a few feet away, coughing but alive. Miss Johnson was helping him sit up. Renee's heels were broken, but she was okay too. Malik was staring straight ahead. His eyes were wide open. Malik, Aaliyah said softly. He turned his head toward her voice and smiled. A real full smile. The kind that glowed without any light at all. Everyone froze. His eyes, Renee whispered, covering her mouth. They're open. The boy blinked slowly. His pupils shrank and widened as if adjusting to the dim light. He wasn't blinking like before. He was seeing. Malik, Damon said, crawling to him. Can you see me? The boy looked at his father's face. Then, small but clear, he said, Daddy. The room broke open with sound, crying, laughter, disbelief. Damon hugged his son so tight that both of them shook. Miss Johnson started praying under her breath. Renee fell to her knees, sobbing into her hands. Aaliyah stood still, too stunned to move. She had never heard anything more beautiful than that one word, Daddy. They got out of the mansion minutes later. Firefighters rushed in, spraying foam through the smoke. The east wing glowed orange in places, but the main rooms were safe. Outside, paramedics checked everyone for burns. Aaliyah sat on the steps, wrapped in a blanket too big for her. Her mom, Tasha, came running through the crowd, eyes wide with fear. Baby. Oh Lord, are you okay? Aaliyah threw herself into her arms. Mama, he can see. Malik can see. Tasha pulled back, confused. What? She helped him, Ms. Johnson said, walking over with Damon behind her. She saw something no one else did. Damon stepped closer, still holding Malik. The boy's eyes were open, blinking at the night sky. He looked at the moon like he'd never known it existed, and maybe he hadn't. I don't understand it, Damon said, voice trembling. But she's right. He looked at me. He called me Daddy. Tasha stared, speechless. My daughter did that? Aaliyah looked up, her face dirty but bright. It wasn't me. It was the light. But not the big light, the soft one. He only sees when it's gentle. Damon nodded slowly. He's not blind. His eyes are too sensitive. The bright light shuts them down. Renee whispered, we thought he was blind because he never opened them. He wasn't blind, Ms. Johnson said softly. He was protecting himself. The wind picked up, carrying smoke away. Sirens wailed in the distance. Everyone stood there in the flicker of fire truck lights, silent, shocked. Changed. Hours later, after the flames were out and the firefighters left, Damon refused to leave the garden. He sat on a bench with Malik on his lap, watching the moon's reflection in the fountain. Aaliyah stood nearby, holding her blanket tight. Damon looked at her. Aaliyah, do you know what you've done? She shook her head. I just turned off the lights. He smiled faintly. You turned off the lights so my son could finally see. But before Aaliyah could answer, Malik tugged at his father's sleeve. Light, he said again, pointing toward the burned-out windows. Yes, buddy, Damon whispered. The bad lights are gone. Malik shook his head slowly. No, light inside. The adults froze. Renee knelt in front of him. What did you say, sweetheart? Malik touched his chest. Light, inside. Aaliyah frowned. What does that mean? Before anyone could guess, Malik suddenly winced. His hands flew to his eyes. Malik! Damon cried. The boy began to tremble. Too bright, he whispered. Too bright. But there were no lights on. Only the moon above them. Then the fountain water rippled, glowing faintly blue, the same strange color as the fuse box before it exploded. Renee gasped. What is that? Ms. Johnson stepped back. It's coming from under the ground. The blue light grew brighter, swirling like something alive. The air hummed. Malik covered his eyes and whispered one word, help. The fountain glowed brighter. The water shimmered blue and white like lightning trapped in a puddle. Everyone stepped back. Even the air felt different, charged, alive, whispering. What's happening? Renee cried. I don't know, Damon said, holding Malik close. But it's coming from underground. Ms. Johnson pulled out her phone, but the screen stayed black. No signal, she muttered. Something's jamming it. The fountain's glow climbed higher, twisting into shapes, like ribbons of smoke made of light. The blue turned softer, warmer, until it painted Malik's face. He stopped trembling. His eyes opened again, calm this time. Malik, Damon whispered. The boy looked straight ahead, not at his father, not at the others, but at the glowing water. Then he said, clear and soft, it's calling. Aaliyah's skin prickled. What's calling? Malik didn't answer. He slid off his father's lap and started walking, slow but steady, toward the fountain. Malik. Damon grabbed his arm. It's not safe. But Malik's tiny hand slipped free. It won't hurt me, he said, voice barely above a whisper. It wants me to see. Wants you to see? Renee gasped. Baby, no. Aaliyah stepped closer, her blanket falling from her shoulders. Mr. Brooks, she said quietly, maybe we should let him. Let him? Damon turned to her, shocked. He's just a child. I know, she said. But every time we stop him from seeing, he gets scared. Maybe this is what he needs to see. Ms. Johnson nodded slowly. She's right. He hasn't looked afraid since that light started glowing. The blue shimmer spread across the grass like spilled paint. Malik stepped closer to the fountain, his bare feet glowing faintly in the light. Aaliyah followed behind him, close enough to grab him if he fell. When they reached the fountain's edge, the water wasn't hot or cold. It felt like air turned liquid. Malik leaned forward and whispered, it's under us. What's under us? Aaliyah asked. He pointed down. The light. It's been sleeping. Damon came closer, fear in his voice. Sleeping? Malik, what are you talking about? Malik's eyes, still wide and glowing from the reflection, looked up at him. It woke up when she turned off the big lights. Aaliyah blinked. Me? He nodded. You made it quiet. It could finally talk. The fountain rippled. A soft hum filled the air, like music without words. The water started forming shapes. Small circles, then lines, then something like an eye. Renee gasped. It's moving. It's reacting, Ms. Johnson said. To him. The glow pulsed brighter each time Malik breathed. Aaliyah felt her heart pounding. It wasn't scary anymore. It felt like the whole world was holding its breath. Then Malik spoke again. It's showing me something. What do you see? Aaliyah whispered. He pointed to the glowing water. A room. A small room. Under this house. Everyone froze. Damon frowned. A room under the house? There's no basement. I built this place myself. Malik shook his head slowly. It's hidden. As pictures, lots of pictures. And the light says that's where the truth is. The truth? Renee whispered. The truth about what? Malik looked up at her and said a single word, me. The glow dimmed. The fountain water turned clear again. Malik blinked and rubbed his eyes like waking from a dream. Renee dropped to her knees. Damon, this is crazy. He's talking about secret rooms. He's just a little boy. Little boys don't talk in riddles, Ms. Johnson said softly. Not like that. He knew there was light before we saw it. Maybe he's sensing something we can't. Aaliyah looked at Damon. Mr. Brooks, maybe we should check. He hesitated. His heart said yes, but his mind said no. If there's a hidden room under this house, someone would have told me. I designed every inch. Did you design it? Renee cut in sharply. Or did your company's engineers handle the blueprints? Damon turned to her. Why? She crossed her arms. Because you don't know everything they built, Damon. You barely slept back then. You said you trusted them. His stomach tightened. She was right. When the mansion was being built, he was always traveling. The architects had added things for security and power stability. He never questioned it. Ms. Johnson, he said quickly, call the maintenance office. Tell them to send me the original schematics for this property. She nodded and stepped aside, trying her phone again. Still no signal. The phones are dead, she said. Even the Wi-Fi. Then we find it ourselves, Damon said. Renee looked at him like he'd lost his mind. You want to go digging under the house in the middle of the night? I want answers, he said firmly. If something under this home is making my son sick, or helping him, it's my job to know. He turned to Aaliyah. Can you show us where the light came from? Aaliyah nodded and pointed toward the fountain. It was right under there. When Malik touched the water, it started glowing. Then we start there, Damon said. 15 minutes later, a group of security guards arrived with flashlights and tools. They looked confused when Damon told them to lift the fountain floor. Sir, that structure's solid marble, one said. You sure about this? Do it, Damon said. Now. They started prying up the tiles. Sparks flew as the drills cut through stone. After a few minutes, a hollow thunk echoed beneath the surface. There's space under here, one guard said. Renee stepped back, nervous. This is insane. Aaliyah held Malik's hand. He was calm, eyes half closed, as if he already knew what they'd find. The workers pulled away a section of marble. Beneath it was a steel door with an old keypad covered in dust. What in the world? Ms. Johnson whispered. Damon crouched beside it, brushing away the dust. There's no record of this in the plans. Renee whispered, who would build a locked room under our house? Malik squeezed Aaliyah's hand and said softly, the light knows. Damon's fingers hovered over the keypad. If it's locked, how do we open it? Maybe it needs a code, Aaliyah said. Ms. Johnson shone her flashlight on the keypad. The metal looked old, older than the house itself. Faint letters were scratched near the buttons. Damon squinted. It says Brooks Research. He froze. Research? That's my father's old company. Renee's eyes widened. You mean this was here before the house? He nodded slowly. Before I built anything here, this land belonged to my father's firm. He used it for experiments. They said they dismantled everything before selling it to me. Aaliyah's voice shook. What kind of experiments? I don't know, Damon said. He never told me. Malik stepped forward, looking at the keypad. The faint blue light from the fountain reflected in his eyes. Malik, Damon said softly, do you know how to open it? The boy nodded once. Everyone stared. He reached his hand toward the keypad, his tiny fingers hovering over the buttons. Then he pressed 3 keys, slow, deliberate. Beep, beep, beep. The metal door clicked. Then it opened. A rush of cold air poured out, smelling like dust and something electric. A dim blue light flickered below. Aaliyah's eyes widened. It's real? Ms. Johnson gripped her flashlight. Be careful. Damon started down the stairs first, holding Malik in his arms. Aaliyah followed, close behind. Renee came next, her heels clicking on the metal steps. The doctor trailed last, muttering, this is madness. The deeper they went, the colder it got. The hum grew louder, like the sound the fuse box made before it exploded. At the bottom was a long hallway with walls of silver metal. Old computers lined one side, covered in dust. Strange wires and glass tubes ran through the walls, glowing faintly blue. What is this place? Aaliyah whispered. Damon moved his flashlight slowly. I don't know, but look. On the wall was a faded sign. Renee stepped closer. Lumen, that means light. Damon's heart pounded. My father was obsessed with neural light therapy, machines that could heal the brain using patterns of light. Aaliyah turned to him, shocked. You mean, he made light that goes inside people? Damon nodded slowly. That's what he believed. Malik looked up at him. It's still here, he whispered. It's alive. Everyone froze. The machine, Malik said. It never stopped. It's still talking. Before anyone could speak, a deep metallic voice echoed through the hallway. Subject detected. Experiment 041 reactivated. Red lights flashed. The walls began to hum. A door at the end of the hall slid open by itself, revealing a glowing chamber filled with swirling blue mist. Damon stepped back, holding Malik tight. "What is that?" The voice spoke again. "Welcome back, Malik Brooks." Everyone froze. Aaliyah whispered, "It knows his name." Damon's heart stopped. "That's impossible." Malik blinked, eyes glowing faintly in the blue light. He looked up at his father and said quietly, "Daddy, this is where I was born." The machines roared to life. The hum from the glowing chamber filled the air like thunder under their feet. Blue mist rolled across the floor. The machines, old, dusty, forgotten, suddenly looked alive again, blinking with small red and green lights. Renee covered her mouth. "It's moving on its own." Aaliyah held Malik's hand tighter. "Mr. Brooks," she whispered, "it said his name. How can it know him?" Damon's voice cracked. "I don't know. But I'm going to find out." He took a deep breath and stepped toward the chamber. The metal walls around it pulsed with soft light, like a heartbeat. There were words etched on a plaque above the door, covered in dust. Damon brushed it clean. Read. "Project Lumen, Infant Subject Testing Initiative. Lead Scientist, Dr. Raymond Brooks." Damon froze. "That's my father's name." Renee's voice shook. "Your father tested on babies?" He stared at the plaque, silent. "He said his research was for healing the blind. I didn't know it meant this." Malik looked up at the door, eyes glowing faintly blue. "Daddy," he said softly, "it's where I started." Everyone went still. "What do you mean?" Damon asked, kneeling beside him. Malik blinked slowly. "The light told me. I was born in the dark. But before I saw you, I saw this." Aaliyah shivered. "He remembers this place." The voice from the machine spoke again, deep and calm. "Hello, Malik. Your vision therapy was never completed." Renee screamed. "That's not possible. He's only 3 years old." Age record, 3 years, 4 months, 7 days. Status, incomplete. The voice echoed through the room, flat but almost human. Damon shouted, "What are you? Who are you talking to?" "To you, Damon Brooks. You are registered as emergency access. Your father left you a message." Everyone turned to the large monitor. It flickered to life, static crackling, and then an old video appeared, grainy and trembling. An older man filled the screen, wearing a white lab coat and dark glasses. His face looked tired but proud. "Damon," the man said, voice rough with age. "If you're seeing this, my project has awakened. I know you hate me for what I became. But I did this for us, for our family." Damon whispered, "Dad." The recording continued. "I was close to creating a cure for blindness, real, lasting sight through neural light transfer. But we needed a living subject to connect with the light source, one born with sensitivity high enough to receive it." The man looked down in the video. "That's when I made the choice I can never undo." Renee's voice broke. "What choice?" The man looked up again, his eyes heavy with guilt. "I used your son, Damon. I used Malik." The room went cold. Aaliyah gasped. "What?" Damon stumbled back, shaking his head. "No, that's not true. Malik was born 3 years ago, at the hospital." But the voice on the screen went on. "They said it was impossible to stabilize the implant after birth. So I did it before. I took the embryo, your child, and exposed it to the light." Renee screamed, falling to her knees. No, that's not true. I carried him. He's mine." The man on the screen looked almost sad. "You carried him, yes. But the embryo was not untouched. The light bonded with him in the womb. His blindness wasn't natural, it was the shield his mind built to protect itself from the overload." The screen flickered, the image breaking apart into static. "He is the light's host," the machine said. "Only he can complete the transfer." Damon's voice was barely a whisper. "My father used my own child as an experiment." Malik stood silently, looking at the glowing chamber. "It wants me to finish it," he said. Renee reached for him. "No, baby, no. You're not a machine. You're my son." Malik turned to her. "I am your son. But I'm also part of the light. It lives in me." Aaliyah's eyes filled with tears. "Then we'll help you. You don't have to go in there." Malik smiled softly. "I have to. The light says if I don't, more people will get hurt. The house is not safe." The machine pulsed again, faster now. "System reboot in 60 seconds. Complete the transfer or system meltdown will occur. Damon panicked. Meltdown? What does that mean? Structural collapse. Energy discharge level, lethal. Renee screamed. We have to get out. No, Damon said, standing tall. If Malik goes in there, what happens to him? Transfer may stabilize subject. Or terminate subject. Damon's knees weakened. No, there has to be another way. Malik looked at him, calm and steady. Daddy, it's okay. Tears streamed down Damon's face. No, it's not okay. You're my son. Malik touched his father's face with both small hands. You gave me love. She gave me care. Aaliyah gave me light. Now I'll give it back. Aaliyah shook her head. You can't. There must be another way. Malik smiled. You said I wasn't blind. You were right. I can see everything now. The countdown echoed through the speakers. 30 seconds to meltdown. Damon screamed. Malik, please? But Malik stepped forward into the blue chamber. The mist swirled around him like gentle clouds. The light brightened until the walls glowed white. Transfer sequence initiated. The sound grew louder, machines humming, glass cracking, energy rising. Aaliyah shielded her eyes. Malik, she cried. Inside the chamber, the boy turned one last time and smiled at her. Tell Mama I'm not scared anymore. Then everything went white. Silence. When the light faded, the chamber was empty. The machine stopped. The hum was gone. Aaliyah opened her eyes, blinking against the haze. Damon was kneeling, staring at the empty pod. Renee was crying quietly. Ms. Johnson stood frozen, her hand over her mouth. Where is he? Damon whispered. The machine's voice spoke one last time. Transfer complete. The power lights flickered off. Damon fell to his knees. No, no, please no. Aaliyah ran to the chamber, pressing her hands against the glass. Malik. No answer. She turned back to Damon, tears streaming down her face. He said he'd give it back. What did he mean? Before Damon could answer, a soft sound filled the room, like wind, like a hum, like a heartbeat. The blue glow returned, not from the machines, but from the fountain above. Then, from inside the chamber, a small hand pressed against the glass. Aaliyah gasped. He's alive. The glass door hissed open. Malik stepped out, barefoot, eyes bright as stars, but this time they weren't blue. They were golden. He smiled at his father. I can see everything now. Damon rushed forward, grabbing him, holding him tight. You're here. You're okay. Thank God. Renee sobbed, kissing her son's hair. My baby. Aaliyah wiped her tears. You did it, Malik. He nodded. The light's gone now. It's quiet inside. Damon looked at him, confused but relieved. What do you mean? Malik looked toward the glowing walls. It went back to sleep. But not forever. Aaliyah frowned. What do you mean not forever? Malik looked at her, and for the first time his voice sounded older than his years. The light doesn't die, he said softly. It waits. The floor beneath them gave a low rumble. Dust fell from the ceiling. The machines flickered once more, faint but alive. System reboot. 10%. Ms. Johnson screamed, It's starting again. Damon turned to run, but Malik didn't move. He looked at Aaliyah and said quietly, It's not done with me yet. The lights flared. The air shook. And the blue glow swallowed the room.